We've done over $2 million in sales on Etsy selling print on demand products. But the crazy part is, we have no graphic design background. And yet, we've been able to consistently create best selling designs.
So, in this video, we're sharing our niche research and design process, the exact process we use to create best selling designs time after time, like clockwork. You don't need to be a professional designer to win on Etsy and print on demand. You just need a proven process. And we're going to show you exactly how we do it in this video. If you guys are watching this, you're giving us your time and your attention, which are your most valuable assets. And so we always like to start here. Why should you guys listen to us? Well, Laura and I have done over $2 million in lifetime sales on Etsy. Those two screenshots at the top, those are screenshots of our stats from two of our Etsy shops. Now, obviously, Etsy doesn't include the shipping collected in those stats, but that big green number at the bottom there, that's our total lifetime sales as of 8/27 of 2025. And so over the last 12 months, Lauren and I both quit our 9-to-5 jobs. We've gone all out on Etsy. This is what we do full time. We're actively growing and pursuing our Etsy shops here in 2025 and sharing our journey with you guys. So, why are we making these videos? Primarily for three main reasons. Number one, to document our journey from where we're at right now, $2 million, all the way to $10 million and beyond. Along the way, we're going to be sharing what did work, what didn't work, and what we're actively doing in our own Etsy shops. And then finally, selfishly, we're making these videos to attract other Etsy sellers like you who align with our values and who want to work with us to grow their own Etsy shops. So let's get right into the video. So in the last episode, we talked about listing photos. And in this video, we're going to be talking about niche research.
And by the way, guys, stay tuned because we're going to be sharing a lot of details about our very special project that we have been working on. But first, let's do a recap. In episode 1, we showed you guys exactly how to set up your Etsy shop. In episode 2, we talked about product selection. In episode 3, we helped you guys identify your niches. In episode 4, we talked through how we do our vision board. In episode 5, we talked about how we do our listing photo templates. And in this episode, we are going to do a deep dive of how we do our niche research.
So, if you guys remember in episode 4, we identified a 4-step process. And so, as a reminder, this is what that 4-step process looked like. Step number 1 was extract the design attributes. Step number 2 was document those attributes on a vision board. And then in that episode 4, we mentioned that steps 3 and 4 we were going to cover in a future video. Well, that time is now. We're going to cover steps 3 and 4 in this video right here. So step 3 is going to be the niche research, and then step 4 is going to be create new designs. And so, like always, we're going to give you guys kind of a high-level overview, and then we're going to jump into a full tutorial to show you guys exactly how we do it. So let's get into it.
And guys, remember that this process is the exact process that we use in our very own business. And this framework will help you win in each niche within your product category. So by following this process, you will lay the foundation to create designs with confidence. And there will be no more guessing, throwing spaghetti at the wall, or random designs you think look good. There will also be no more relying on those expensive trend reports, and you get the opportunity to own your research and own your business.
So we wanted to give you guys a reminder of what KDAs are, or key design attributes. And so we'll be using that acronym frequently throughout this video. And so I figured it'd be good to give the definition again here, just to familiarize ourselves and all be on the same page. So we define a key design attribute, a KDA, as the repeated components and elements of top selling designs, common design elements successfully used across many niches within a product category. And by the way, I just wanted to stop right here and say, if you guys haven't seen episode 4, we've mentioned it a few times now, but if you haven't seen episode 4, make sure to pause the video right now, go back to that episode and watch it, and then you can come back to this episode, because it's not going to make sense if you haven't seen those previous episodes. All right, so a high-level overview here. It's important to understand how to properly deploy your KDAs to create new designs using your list of niches and your niche research. So remember that your list of niches is not a list of the designs that you will copy and slightly change. You will likely not find success doing this. Instead, Your list is a list of the high potential niches for that product category.
So let's jump into step number 3, which is our niche research. This step can be a little tricky at first, so guys, give yourself some grace. But like everything else in life, the more you do it, the better you will get at it.
All right, so let's go in the detailed steps of within step number 3, our niche research, right? And so basically, we're always going to have our vision board open. And so I'll show you guys exactly how to do that when we get to the tutorial part of this video. But just as a note, you're always going to have this open while you're doing this process. And so step number 1 is you're going to identify that niche. And we're going to reference that column that we added back in our list in the previous episodes. And so then step number 2, we're going to go into incognito mode on Etsy. We're going to search for that niche just like a customer would. And we're going to use a new browser each time that we do that. Because if you stay in the same browser, Etsy's going to start to tailor your results and skew your results based on what you've previously searched for. So we always want to start with a new browser each time we do this step. And then step number 3, we're going to identify what is most valuable for that niche. So in other words, what your design must absolutely have. And then step number 4, we're going to identify overutilized KDAs and product designs. Step number 5, we're going to identify underutilized KDAs and product designs. And then finally, we're going to take some detailed notes on all the things we've observed and learned from this niche research.
And step number 4, we're going to create new designs. So now, using your niche research notes, you will create one design for this niche. And yes, you heard me correctly. I said only one design. So if you are struggling with the idea of creating just one design for a niche, then please go back and watch the video below. Connor did a very detailed video of why we do one design in each niche. So go back and check that out before you get any further.
All right, guys, we're in the tutorial part of the video now, and I'm going to walk through how I would approach 3 different designs here for 3 different niches. So to start, I want to jump over to Inner Circle Prints, actually. And so we're just in their catalog. And so if you guys were to scroll down and find your ornament product, you can click on this. And if you go to step 2 here, which you can access the variations and design templates, if you were to click on this, that'll open up a new design and you can copy that there. And so I've already set this up ahead of time just to save some time, but that's how you guys get the right size template. And what you'll see if I scroll down a little, this is what it would bring up. It gives you a template to design right on in your Canva file. So that's what we're going to be using. And so we're going to start to look at these 3 niches right here. And so what I'm going to do here is I have a separate window called up here. You want to be in incognito mode to do this. I just have a guest window for the sake of this video, but we're going to use this. And always remember to start a new browser, a new window in incognito mode each time so that your results aren't tailored, because Etsy will start to figure out what you've been searching, what you've been clicking for, and they'll show you different results. So we want to be shown the results as if we're a brand new customer and search as if we're a customer. So we're going to start in Etsy, and we're just going to type in our niche or our micro market here. So new grandparents ornament, and we'll start with this one. And from here, we're just going to start to observe. And what I have here on this next page is we want to start to go through each of these questions that we talked about, right? So just to review, we're going to identify the niche. We're going to go into incognito mode, which is what we're doing. We're going to search for the niche. Then we're going to try and identify what's most valuable, what our design must absolutely have. We're going to try to identify some overutilized KDAs and also some underutilized KDAs. And then we're going to take some design notes or detailed notes and eventually come up with a design together. So let's just start to observe this one here. And so to start, let me just start to fill out our questions here. So we searched new grandparents ornament. We went into incognito mode. This is what we searched. And I know this seems a little silly, like documenting this, but it's so important. And it's exactly what we do. It's exactly what our team does. And it really helps you generate those unique new ideas that add value to the marketplace. So try this for yourselves as you guys follow along. So step 3, we're going to try and identify what's most valuable. So we're going to start scrolling through here. We're going to ignore these ad placements here. We really want to look at the organic placements, so the ones that don't have the ad. So this one says our first Christmas is grandparents. Same thing here. First Christmas is grandparents. First Christmas is grandparents. This one says grandma and grandpa, grandparents, first Christmas. And so I think it's pretty clear, like right away, that our design needs to have the word grandparents, parents, or grandma, grandpa, and probably needs to reference Christmas. Something about Christmas, right? Merry Christmas or first Christmas, something like that. In terms of overutilized KDAs, I think let's go through these again. So what are we seeing here? Nothing too similar here on this first row. We do start to see a handful of watercolor Christmas trees here. Christmas trees again, Christmas tree, Christmas tree, Christmas tree. Again, those same Christmas trees that we talked about in our vision board episode. And so, yeah, I keep seeing more and more of these Christmas trees. And so I think I'm going to write that down. We probably don't want to go in that direction. So watercolor Christmas trees, I'm going to consider that overused. Probably not going to go in that direction. All right, let's go back through, take another look here. See if we can think of anything that's underutilized. And so to do that, what I like to do is I like to go to our vision board here. And so if you guys haven't seen that episode, again, make sure you guys go back and watch that. I didn't fully flesh that out as you saw in that video. I wanted you guys to have the opportunity to spend more time in the research and do that for yourselves. But we're going to use the one that we partially filled out for this exercise. And so these were our KDAs. We have our vision board. And so when we go through this exercise, when we start to generate ideas for designs, we always have our vision board open as a reference. And the reason for that is we never want to forget what the data says. What are those verified key design attributes spread across the entire product category that make best-selling, top-selling designs in that product? And so we never want to forget that. We never want to veer off from that proven data too much. And so we're always going to have this open as a reference when we do this. And so one of the ones we talked about that I was referencing was this, right? These trees are very popular, watercolor Christmas trees. And we even went a step further and we created like a design template, right? Which we may use as a starting point at some point in this video. But I think as we identified, those watercolor trees were overused. So now we're kind of looking for what is underused. And so with our vision board open and kind of scrolling through here, let's try and identify something that maybe is underused. And so this one right here, this is like 3 snowmen. We've got this string of lights with some gingerbread and stockings. A lot of Christmas trees, obviously. Here we have 2 bears and a little bear. A lot of Christmas trees, like we said. Here's a photo, so that could be an idea, but this obviously isn't an ornament. There's a photo here on a front and back design. Here's some penguins. So I kind of like the idea. We've seen it a couple times now. I don't think it's like super overused, but like maybe some type of animal or snowman, like in a set of 3, right? Where it's a grandma, grandpa, and then the kid. Like they did bears here and then penguins here. So, and we kind of see that show through in our, we called it watercolor elements, but we saw that show through with the different animals for some of those kids ornaments. And so I think that probably aligns pretty well here. And so I'm just going to put Christmas animals or snowmen, something like that. And then I'm just going to write some detailed notes here. So I'm thinking we go with something like our template design, right? And so if we go back to this is what I'm thinking. So use something like this where we're able to call out those 3 names for grandparents, obviously, but different elements here. And so let's say we go with our template design, but for grandparents, and replace the watercolor trees with some Christmas animals, something like that. That's my idea. And so I think that wraps up answering these questions. I think we have some good ideas, at least for the grandparents ornament. And so let's go to our next one. I'm just going to do this in the same window. Like I said, you definitely want to close the window, open a new incognito browser each time you do this, but just for the sake of time and for this video, I'm going to do this. I haven't clicked on any listings, so I shouldn't really get too much tailored results here. And so to start to fill out our questions here, so the niche is baseball ornament. And so we went into incognito mode. We've searched for the niche just like a customer would. So baseball ornament. And so now we're going to start to ask ourselves, what's the most valuable thing in this niche? What does our design absolutely need to have? And so we're just going to start to observe here. So these are obviously some different types of ornaments. They're not the ceramic ornaments that we're working on, but I think we can still take inspiration and ideas from them. So I think the first thing that jumps out is like the name and number. So this has the last name, number, same thing, last name, number. Same thing here in a different way. These are some more like our ornaments that we're going to be selling with baseball backgrounds, but same thing. They have the name. This one, in fact, has the date. So maybe just the name is the most important thing, but I think the number seems like it. So I'm going to go name and number is the most valuable. That's what our design must have. Name and number with a baseball reference, right? Whether that's a baseball background or whatever it is, it needs to be baseball themed. You need to know it's for a baseball player immediately when you look at it, right? Seems obvious, but it's really helpful to document these things and just get clarity. So now we're going to go back through and we're going to try and identify like what's overutilized potentially, right? And so let's start to scroll through these again. So again, the baseball players, those are different than what we have. We have this whole row down here where it's like baseball background, baseball background, baseball background. Another one here. Here's a glove, kind of a baseball background, baseball background. This isn't a full background, but it's like an actual baseball. Here's a cool one, a snowman with a baseball. So I think probably too much with like the baseball background. I probably wouldn't want to just repeat that. There's only so many things you can do with that. So many different fonts you could use. So I think baseball background is probably like overutilized here. And we probably don't want to go in that direction and just be, you know, the 4th, 5th, 6th in line. Probably not going to win in that way. So next thing we want to do is try and identify some underutilized KDAs. So as a reminder, we're going to go back to our KDA vision board here and look at our verified KDAs. What things can we pull from here? And so one of the things that I really like about these ones is it's like super duper personalized, right? Obviously we can't do the full figure. We just have ceramic circle ornaments, but we probably could accomplish a similar thing with a photo. And so I don't see really any photos here other than maybe this, which is super personalized as well. But yeah, I don't see any photos, and I think there's probably huge opportunity, especially for like a kid's Christmas ornament. They have, just like this one, they have that sports photography, sports photo that they could put on that Christmas ornament, and I think that would add huge value. So that's what I'm thinking. I think custom photo for added value. Okay, and then, so we talked a little bit about this, but let's just document it in detail. So thinking custom photo of baseball player, maybe add in watercolor effect. And so I'm thinking the watercolor effect maybe because we did have that as one of our KDAs. So if we go to that page of the vision board, where is it? Watercolor photos. So something like this is kind of what I'm thinking, but obviously baseball themed. So let us go back here. And so I think this wraps up the baseball ornament research. Let's go to the teacher ornament now. So we're going to go back up. And again, what we're going to do is search teacher ornament. Pretty simple. We'll start to answer our questions here. So the niche is teacher ornament. We've gone to incognito mode, teacher ornament. That's what we searched, just like a customer word. And now we're going to try and identify what's most valuable for the niche. So let's just start to scroll through here and observe, take it all in. So what are we seeing? We see Mrs. Smith, thank you for helping me grow. Mrs. Smith, thank you. Mrs. Davis, thank you for helping me grow. Never forget the difference you make. Mrs. Parker, thank you for being an important piece of my story. Some type of rainbow, pretty small, hard to see on this one. Hard to read on this one as well. This one, teacher's name, thanks for helping me shine. Some of these aren't even ornaments. Influence of a good teacher can never be erased. I like that one. Thank you. Teach, love, inspire. Never forget the difference you make. So I think a few different phrases that we're seeing here, but I think the main thing that needs to be in this, and most of them have it except maybe this one, is that the teacher's name. So I think personalized teacher's name like needs to be on my design, and maybe some thank you aspect. So that one's a maybe, but I think definitely the personalized teacher's name needs to be on that ornament. So next thing, we want to identify those overutilized KDAs. And so let's go through here. And so when I say overutilized KDAs, it doesn't necessarily always need to be KDAs that are on your vision board. We also say and product designs. So within specific micro markets, you're going to see very specific design attributes, and those things can also be overused. And so that's why we say overutilize key design attributes and product designs, because sometimes they can be very specific to the micro market. So let's look through these again. So this one has some bows, kind of some line art elements. That was one of our key design attributes. This has those Christmas trees, maybe the subtle hearts mixed in. This one also has the subtle heart. This one has like this pencil rainbow with an apple in the middle. This one, subtle heart. Again, some rainbows here. This one has Christmas trees, subtle heart here. Again, rainbows here. What else are we seeing? Some bows. We saw those earlier. I think maybe the rainbows is a little overused, and like probably the apples as well. So I'm gonna say rainbows and apples may be overused. And then our next question here, we're gonna try and identify something that's underutilized, referencing our vision board, right? And so let's scroll through again. So we have the bows, we have the Christmas trees, the pencil, some Christmas trees here. What's interesting in this market is we're not seeing a huge emphasis on Christmas. And so like this isn't really Christmassy. This one isn't either. This one has the Christmas trees. This one does, but this one doesn't. This one really doesn't. This one doesn't. This one definitely doesn't. This one doesn't. Same with this. So I think there's probably like an opportunity here to get a little more Christmassy. So opportunity to have more Christmas elements. And so if we look back at our vision board, I think we kind of had that. So we had watercolor elements. If we further flush this out, we probably would have broke off another KDA into like Christmas elements and gotten very specific. But but I think it's kind of encapsulated right now in these. Like these are all very Christmas themed elements. We said watercolor, but like I said, if we further flesh this out, I think we would have found there's probably more Christmas elements, and that probably would have been its own key design attribute. And so, yeah, that's what I'm thinking here. So let's take some notes. And so I think we can get more Christmassy, but still lean on the proven thank you phrases. So like we said, we see all these different types of phrases. Thank you for helping me grow. Thank you for helping me grow. Thank you for being a part of my story. Thank you for helping me shine. So I think maybe something like thank you for helping me grow. So we'll just write that down so we remember. And then the other thing that we see is like we said, the personalized teacher's name needs to be on there. And so with personalized teacher's name, and if we do go the direction of the thank you with that phrase, I think what we're going to want to do is include kids name for added value. So another level of personalization. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think we have some good notes here overall for these 3 ornament niches or micro markets. And so the next step here is we're just going to start to flush out these designs. And so I'm going to make this full screen and we're just going to dive right into it. So let's start with the new grandparents ornament. And so just as a reminder, we're thinking we're going to go with our template design, but for grandparents, and we'll replace the watercolor trees with some Christmas type animals. So we'll go down to our template here. I want to go grab our design template that we created. And so, like I said, we can just copy this right in. And we'll just resize this slightly. Something like this. But the huge benefit of setting this up ahead of time is that you don't have to do a ton of this work. And so if you guys spend a lot of time on your vision board, it can make designing much, much easier. So like we said, we want to delete these Christmas trees. I think this obviously becomes grandpa, and this one's going to be grandma. Oops. Something like that. And then it's going to be for our first Christmas as, and then this would probably be grandparents. And this buffalo font's a little weird, the G. So I'm just going to add a dash here. And oops, we'll zoom in here and just do something like that. I think it makes it look more like a G so we don't get complaints. And then what did we say? We said Christmas animals. Replace the watercolor trees with some Christmas animals. And so the thing that I'm thinking here is, from being in other product categories and just being aware doing this so much, I know that like Silly Goose right now is very popular for whatever reason. And so I'm thinking if we can find a set of like Christmas gooses that we could use, I think it would work really well. And so, by the way, I like to just use Canva elements. There's so many Canva elements out there and they're constantly being updated. And so I know a lot of people use like Creative Fabrica. We don't even have a subscription to Creative Fabrica. We like rarely, if ever, use it. I'd say 99% of the time we stick to just Canva elements. And so you guys don't need to go off and get a bunch of subscriptions and have all these monthly payments. You can do just fine with just Canva. And if you need to go find a very specific element, you can go find it on Etsy. You can go buy it, just that specific element on Creative Fabrica if you really, really need it. But I would just try and stick to Canva, try and simplify things. So as you can see, there's like tons of gooses already that have Christmas themes to them. So I think this one's kind of cute. Looks kind of like the kid goose right here, right? Wrapped in Christmas lights, has the Santa hat. And then I think let's just find 2 for like the grandpa and the grandma. So I think this one looks pretty good for the grandpa. This one maybe has a more female feel. So we're going to flip this so they're facing each other. something like this. She has the boots and then the scarf, obviously. And so, yeah, I think something like this looks pretty good. I think maybe we can move this down a little bit. Just recenter it. Something like that. Maybe these can get a little bigger. Same with this one. Yeah, I think something like this, and it aligns with what we saw, right? With the bears that we saw, the snowman. It has more of that Christmassy feel than maybe some of those other teacher elements. And so, yeah, I do like how this is turning out. I'll make grandparents a little bigger just to take up that white space. And I think this looks pretty good. And so our next design here, let's go to the next one, was our baseball ornament. And so we were thinking a custom photo of a baseball player and maybe add in a watercolor effect. And so what I did is I went to Google just for the sake of this video, right? Obviously customers would send you videos, but we're just going to grab a free to use stock image. We're going to copy that as an example. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to this website called BeFunky. And so it's an AI tool that I know other people use and use this to create watercolor effects. And so it can be really helpful to create these types of images. And so let's try it out here. I'll show you guys how it's going to work. And so we're just going to paste in our image that we found here. And then what we're going to do is create an effect here. And so I think what we're looking for is some type of watercolor effect. And so bear with me here. Okay, so I went to the artsy effects. We went to GFX series. There's probably like so many in here. Like here's one that's just watercolor. So let's go with this one. And we're just going to click on one of these. We'll try this one just as an example. And it'll basically turn your image into a watercolor image pretty quickly. So we can do a couple of them here just to see which one we like better. That one's maybe a little too fake. Let's try this one. The key here when you guys do this is you want to be able to create consistent results. So try a few different images whenever you're doing this and make sure you can create those consistent results, because customers are going to be sending you a wide range of photos, right? And so let's see. Oops. I think I like this one here. And so for now, it's wanting me to upgrade my plan to download the image without the watermark, which you guys can do. You can test it out. But for now, what I'm going to do is just take an image of this or take a screenshot just for the sake of this tutorial. Definitely go download or upgrade your plan so that you have the right to use this photo. But for now, what we're going to do is use this one. And so what I'm thinking is we have this photo here. And what I'm going to do for this photo ornament is I'm going to add a frame here. And I'm just going to make this take up the entire page. And we'll move this behind. And then we can just drag our image right in. And we can kind of reposition it or resize it if we need to. But I think something like this looks pretty good. Let's move our template to the front again. And I'm just going to lower the transparency so we can kind of see. I think that looks pretty good. We're maybe a little close to the hole here, so let's just move him over. I'd rather the side of his hat or the top of his hat get cut off than his face. So something like that looks good. And we'll put this on a mock-up at the end of this video just to double check our designs and make sure everything looks good. But I really like this like watercolor feel using a real photo, right? And so the other thing that we wrote down in our notes, right, when we look at the baseball player, for the most valuable point was that the name and number with a baseball reference. So obviously our baseball reference is the photo, the baseball photo of the kid. So we want to add our name and number. And so what I'm going to do is just add some text here. And I think if we just type in sports, there's this font Sports World that I like. And so maybe we'll just give an example name, Nolan, number 8. Something like this. And I think let's make this font white so it stands out a little better. Somewhere like this in that blank space. And then I think what I'm going to do is add an outline here just to make this pop a little bit more. And maybe this baseball red, I think that goes well with baseball, obviously, with the seams of a baseball. And so something like that. Let's just double check. So yeah, it's within that dotted line, which is the actual ornament. It's just within that gray area, this gray area here, which is that keep out zone. We've avoided our hole. We've given some conservative spacing there. So I think overall this looks pretty good. And we've accomplished what we wanted to, right? We've added more value with the photo. We have that main value point with the name and the number and the baseball theme, obviously. So yeah, I think that one's looking pretty good. Let's look at our third one and go through this design now. So next one was the teacher ornament. And so what did we say? We said we thought we could get a little more Christmassy, but lean on the proven thank you phrases and like, thank you, help me grow. Thank you for helping me grow. Include that personalized teacher's name, and then also include the kid's name for added value. And so let's go down to our next page here. And so to start, I'm just going to look up like Christmas teacher again in Canva, and we'll go back to graphics here. And so a few elements come up, maybe not as Christmassy, not as many options here, but that's okay. Maybe teacher Christmas, kind of the same thing. I kind of like this one. I think this is like super Christmassy, definitely aligned with the teacher theme with the pencils, right? We saw the rainbow pencils. So it has that teacher element, but it still has the Christmas feel, right? So it's kind of a combination. We saw some teachers with just teacher ornaments with just Christmas trees. We saw some that didn't have any Christmas feel, but were like pencils, rainbows, apples. I think this maybe is like the perfect mix between the two. I don't love this, so I'm just going to use the magic erase tool to erase this. I'm going to erase these because I don't love these either. Maybe we'll add in some snowflakes to make it more Christmas themed and a little more relevant. So something like that. We'll just erase these. And it should just take another second here. And then we have this as a starting point for our design. So something like this. What did we say for the phrase? We said, thank you for helping me grow. Okay. Let's go back to our vision board here. And so, yeah, actually, we did jot down some fonts. And so I think one of the fonts that we saw actually was this typewriter font. I think we saw one that was like a puzzle piece ornament that had this very similar font. And so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to say, I'll make this a little smaller and center it. So we're going to say, thank you for helping me grow. Make this a little smaller. And then maybe we'll just add an exclamation at the end. Thinking something like this. And I want to leave space up here for the teacher's name. So that's why I'm positioning it like this. And if we go back here, again, this Buffalo font was another script that we had identified. So let's use that for now. Maybe I'll just use Mrs. Smith as the example, a common name. And we'll just make sure that's far enough away from the hole here. We're just going to center this. Already is centered. Something like that. Thank you for helping me grow. And then we wanted to add like the kid's name, right? So like love, maybe love Kate as the example. Something like this. I'll bring this down. And one of the other KDAs that we had, and we saw this a few times, was subtle hearts, right? Whether it's a line art heart or red or some type of watercolor. And so I'm just going to type in heart. And I think this one's good for the sake of this video. Something like this. Make sure the pencils look centered here. Can make our image a little bit bigger. Center our heart, and then I'm going to make sure the heart matches our pencil here, that shade of red, just to have that cohesive feel. And so, yeah, I think this is looking pretty good. I think there is some white space over here, and we had done that magic erase. So I think we can probably add some snowflakes and just get this even more Christmassy. And so what I like to do for snowflakes, I don't usually like to do like a real snowflake. I think if you guys have spent any time looking in this market, what you'll see is there's often like these types of snowflakes. And so I just type in asterisk and I usually get some good elements here. And so I'm just going to sprinkle these around the ornament in that white space. And again, the purpose here is just add that more Christmas feel, which is what we identified in our notes when we did that niche research, right? And so I'm not going to go too crazy with these, but I'm just going to try and sprinkle them in. Something like this. I think that looks pretty good for now. And yeah, liking how this has turned out, I'm going to delete our guides here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our mockup file from one of our previous episodes. And so let's just download each one of these. And so I like to download it with a transparent background. I think it shows better on the ornament mockup. So that's what we're going to do. So a PNG, transparent background. And then same thing here. So we've got our 3 pages downloaded. Let's go over to our mockup file here. And so what I've done, and so maybe I'll show this to you guys in another video. I'm definitely going to show you guys this in detail on the upcoming ICP Ornament Challenge series. So we have a 4-day live event. Going to be tons of value for you guys. I'm going to show you guys how to do this in detail to make realistic mock-ups and really just streamline your process. So make sure you guys are there for that. I've gone ahead and done this ahead of time, but I'll show you guys exactly how to like make a realistic frame and also be able to show the ribbon still in there and cut out the hole and things like that so that you can do it with all your mock-ups. So what we're going to do here is just bring in our 3 images to our upload section. And so now what we're going to do, we'll go through each one. So we're just going to take this image and we just drag it right into the frame, just like this. And one thing I want to explain here. So the frame is the entire ornament, right? But if we go back to our design file here, you can see that we have this bleed area. So outside the dotted line is the exact size of the ornament. We have this bleed area if we want to do that full coverage. So for example, in this photo ornament, we have full coverage on the ornament. And so in order to compensate for that, we need to just increase the size slightly. So I like to just go something like this, maybe a little smaller, and something like that. Looks pretty good. And we can always, I have these in here to make these, to make the edges look round, right? And so again, I'll show you guys how to do that. It was a little too dark there, or a little too bright. So I think this looks about the right size. So we'll go with this. And so we would download that mock-up essentially. And we do this for all of our mock-up pages. But at the end of my design, I like to just test things out, right? And so this may be a little too high. So what I would do is I would go back here. I probably would just lower this slightly. So we're a little further from that hole, just to be safe. So let's go back and just fix that. And yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Something like that. Cool. So then let's bring in our other image. So our second one here, this is the full coverage. This is the photo. And so again, we just drag this in. I'm going to increase the size slightly, kind of reposition, recenter. Something like that looks good. So again, you can see this has a more realistic feel with the edges. The frame makes it really easy. You can still see the ribbon. Again, I'll show you guys how to do that in detail during that challenge series. So make sure you guys are there. We have a lot of value packed, jam-packed in a 4-day event. So we're really looking forward to it. And then let's just check our last design here. So this was the teacher one. We'll bring this one in. Again, I'm going to increase this slightly. Something like this. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little too close to the edge. So something like that I think looks a little more realistic of how it would actually look on the ornament. And make sure it's centered. But yeah, that looks pretty good. We have that Christmas feel, which is what we were going for. We have the personalized name in both sections. We have that typewriter font, which we saw in our KDAs. We saw that in the micro market actually on that puzzle piece ornament. And yeah, I'm really liking how these 3 designs turned out. So hopefully these 3 examples, this tutorial was helpful for you guys. And hopefully this framework of just working through these 5 or 6 questions here and documenting this, filling this out yourselves really helps you to start to generate those new ideas that adds value to each of the micro markets or niches that you guys are working on. And so, yeah, hopefully this was helpful for you guys. We'll jump back to the video now. All right, guys, as promised, more details on the special project that we've been working on over the last few months. We are hosting a live Christmas launch event. It's going to be a live event hosted on YouTube on September 18th, 2025 at 8 p.m. Eastern or 5 p.m. Pacific time. So there's going to be a link down in the description so that you guys can register for that live event. We have huge things planned for you guys if you attend live.
And also, if you do attend live, which we highly, highly encourage, you will be entered in to win a free 12 months of one-on-one coaching with me and Connor, and you will have additional one-time bonus for all that attend. So again, you have to be registered and attend live in order to be entered into this chance to win 12 free months of one-on-one coaching with us.